I took up MBA because I was very keen to understand business, how business happened, how business worked. The one element of business that really excited me was that how do you get a person to buy what you are producing, be it a product or a service?
Welcome to the 32nd episode of My First Job. My name is Venugopal Nair, and I head an agency called Ideascape, which is into advertising, branding, and design. And today is the turn of getting Vinay Pushpakaran on board. He is a professional public speaker. But I remember Vinay putting up this picture on LinkedIn, a boyish Vinay landing in Ghana to manage a marketing assignment. From marketing to public speaking, and as he has told me in his journey towards customer centricity. How does one evolve? Let's listen from Vinay Pushpakar. Hey Vinay,
Hi, Venu.
good to have you on the show.
Such a pleasure. Always, to have a conversation with you with or without the cam on.
Vinay, so the recent thing where you've been speaking to a lot of colleges, what happens at these events?
There are two kinds of events when it comes to colleges. Number one is when we speak to, I speak at B schools where we talk about either marketing or I speak about the mistakes of my MBA journey. The 7 mistakes of my MBA journey, and something that I tell them I have absolutely no gyan for you. I have no advice for you. I'm just going to share 7 mistakes that I made and see that you don't make them, because when you don't make them, you really get the best out of your B school journey.
So when you were in college, okay, what were the kind of things that you were interested in? Was public speaking part of your repertoire then, or you got interested in it later?
It was, even though the opportunities, I did not grab as many opportunities as I could have. But yes, of course, I was very, very keen on that. I loved public speaking then. But again, didn't really. Now, when I think back, hindsight, of course, I wish I could have done more of it. Would have definitely helped. So, yes, absolutely.
So how did you get into marketing? MBA, yes, but right.
When I first joined MBA, I came with a very clean slate. I took up MBA because I was very keen to understand business, how business happened, how business worked. The one element of business that really excited me was that how do you get a person to buy what you are producing, be it a product or a service? That was the most fascinating thing to study. The thought behind that, the process behind that. And I wanted to know, how do you make that happen in the most unconventional ways? Or I wanted to try out a lot of things on that. For me, that was the number one reason why I opted for marketing. Another reason is that I did my engineering, and when it comes to technical part of engineering, I always ran the other way. But until I totally enjoyed in during my engineering was to organize events, talk about sponsorships, see how to get an event going. Of course, at that point of time, the term marketing I did not stick that to what I was enjoying. But when I came to my B school and then I started connecting, and then yes, that's something that I really liked. That was it.
What were some of the events that you organized in college?
Lots. Inter-association events among students. Cultural events that involve students. We had ads apps, and I was particularly keen about events that involved at least some element of public speaking. I was not too keen on the arts related events, of course. We didn't have debates at that time, but we had where, you had to take on a character and then speak like that character on the stage, and answer questions like a mock press conference, as, being a historical figure. So if you're a historical figure and you'll have a panel, and the panel will then shoot questions at you, and you take those questions in today's context. So that was fun. So events like that really fascinated me. I was very keen on that.
And I think that's a precursor almost. The students who are organizing events are the ones who take the plunges, they take the risks, they're willing to go with the stress, they're willing to take rejections early on. Because obviously, when you're going around and trying to get some sponsorship, you're going to be turned away from a lot of places. But because I think they have a college coming every other day and saying, okay, will you sponsor this? Will you get this? So, of course, the big colleges, whatever it is, tend to get that thing. In marketing, what were some of the early incidents that you remember which shaped your thinking?
The first thing that I can think of is the my placement interview. I was appearing for the interview for Herbertsons, the company that the previous name for the UB Group Spirits Division, one part of Spirits Division. So that's I was asked the question that Kingfisher is a leading brand in the beer category. We are market leaders in so many markets. Now, if you are the brand manager of Kingfisher, or you are the sales head of Kingfisher, what would you do to increase the sales of Kingfisher? And now I had prepared for a lot of questions, not this one. I didn't expect this coming. Okay, this was a bouncer. Just sat back and said there are only two ways to increase the sales of any product. Either you make the existing customers consume more, or you make new consumers who don't consume, you make them consume.
Right.
These are the only ways to. So if I was a sales head or the brand manager of Kingfisher, I would create more occasions for people to drink beer. I would, present beer as a Kingfisher as a brand that non-consumers would consider. Maybe somebody who's having a different kind of alcohol might want to try Kingfisher. Who knows? So these are the strategies, and an action plan around this would be what I would do. I said I don't know anything further about either the product or the brand for me to speak further on that. That worked. But then later on, I came to know that worked. Of course, when I said this answer, they did not even smile at me. They were looking at me with those hard eyes, and I was like, okay, I'm gone. Let me start thinking about the next one. But then I got through, and later on, I was told that yeah, that worked.
It's one of those fundamental things that I think sometimes people try to layer it too much. I think when you started out about customer sensitivity, the idea is how do you convince people to buy? And I think when it comes to journeys, most of us have no idea why we tend to buy a certain product, though we can rationalize it later.
Yeah.
But when it comes to it, when is it that it is okay to pay 5,000 rupees for a shirt? You can be sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like one of the cornerstones of marketing that I believe in is that people, the biggest reason why somebody buys something is always emotional, but that they will not share it with people. Then they look for a set of logical, rationale based reasons to then tell people why they made the decision. But deep inside, that the number one reason that you bought something has an emotional connect to that.
Right. Right. Otherwise, there is really no difference between price points. Why would a cup of coffee cost 500 rupees in a five-star hotel and 10 rupees on the roadside, and both have takers in very large numbers? So obviously, it's the same product. It's just that like you said, the emotional connect is different.
So emotional connect, the perceived value, simple.
Yes.
Perceived value.
Right. So how did it come about that you went to Africa what is that about? Or Herbertsons is where you started, and then what happened from there?
Okay. So I joined the UB Group Spirits Division. I would say that I got an absolute dream launch pad for my marketing career, because the UB Group was one of those companies that invested a lot of time and effort in ensuring that the entire batch of management trainees, they were taken through the entire cycle of business, be it sales, marketing in different markets, different levels, different roles. And when you and it's not a short 3 month stint, it's basically close to a 9-10 month stint. So in those 10 months you travel all over the country, are living in different places, are attached to different employees of the company, and then you learn from them, you learn from the market. I think for me that was the most valuable, priceless experiences in my career, which literally foundation of what I do now is based in those 10 months where the entire growth of mindset happened, because I joined there as a fresh MBA graduate with a set of thoughts that this is how things happened. And of course, a lot of myths. Everything was brutally, mercilessly broken, and reality gave me a lot of checks every single week, every single month. And but those 10 months, for me, they were invaluable to shape the mindset that I have today, or what are the work that I do today. Because that was, yeah, that was getting into that, getting down to the grassroots level of the business. And then after that, I went into sales. And then after spending a year, more than a year in sales, then I moved from sales into marketing, and I moved to Bombay. And of course, I mean, enjoyed both. And I had a, I mean, I have to say that I was blessed to have work with a group of people from whom I learned a lot. I learned with some of the industry stalwarts in the alco beverage trade, and who taught not just about the industry or about the product, but about marketing, about consumer behavior.
So, alcohol is taboo in a lot of Indian households.
Mine too.
And beer is a, yeah. And beer is a coming of age drink. It's one of those things that students in college first try because they say they make this distinction between hard liquor and beer because of the alcohol content. Can you recall a couple of things that happened while you were in the market, prospecting, looking, which defined the market or your attitude towards it?
There is a, and this holds true not just for beer or alcohol, but for literally any category which is not something that you use every day. It's not a toothpaste or soap. I mean, I'm sure even when we go closer there might be similar instance there also. But the way we perceive it from outside is very, very different from the way the industry actually works, the market actually works. And you don't get to know that if you sit in your cabin. You have to go to the market. And I have spent time on the market, at the streets. I've stood at, not the retail alcohol shops, to, I mean, a consumer research does not mean that you take a paper and go, you take a form and then you go to a five-star bar and get it filled. No, you go to the local shop where your brand, there are multiple brands. So do a study. You need to go where they are and you need to ask questions and you need to talk to them. Rejection is the norm. Nobody who comes there to get a bottle of beer is in the mindset, mood, or attitude to answer research questions.
Yeah.
You got to
He
find
just wants to get high as quickly as possible.
precisely. So when you go out there and you start talking to people, you get to know the importance of certain things that we put on the label. For example, we say that even very low priced or a medium priced whiskey has got scotch content in that. Now the scotch content would be maybe, 1%, 1% or 2%. We say that. And now the way the customer perceives it, that, oh, this has got scotch, it's only 1%. You do, how much of a refined connoisseur of alcohol you are, but then you tell the person that, boss, this has got scotch in it and you're getting scotch for $300 a bottle. Like,
Yeah. I think there was this whole joke about India selling more scotch than what is produced in Scotland in the first place. No?
true. No, but the point here is that, you get to know the reason why people buy and what are the things that are important for people. Like in certain markets that you go, the consumers want the beer to be really, really strong, which means that when they take the second swig, they want to be high, really high. And there are certain places, certain markets where you go, you sell that kind of a beer, nobody will pick it up. Nobody will pick it up. You have to give them mellow, nice to the palate experience, and so on and so forth. So similarly, there are multiple intricacies of each market which you cannot, and I give it to you, I put it on record, you cannot know this until you actually step out there, go to the market and start working there. And you go and talk to people. That's also something that I tell students when I get a chance. Whatever industry you're in the finance industry, go out there and talk to people who are investing or whose money is getting invested. So go out there and talk to people. See the kind of challenges they are facing. Roll up your sleeves, go down there, get your hands dirty. That is the only foolproof way to learn. There is no other way that can give you that experience.
Yeah. 100%. So you got into marketing at, sales and marketing at Herbertsons. And then what was the next move?
I was in Mumbai. I was based in Mumbai. I was handling brand development, trade marketing. And of course, the work was fine, but at the same time, I think the Bombay city, I think, I'm not somebody who loves getting up at 6 in the morning to reach office at 9:30 in the morning and getting back at 10 o'clock. That was just not for me. That was just not for me. And before that, I was based in Goa, where, you have a very small work day. Yes, absolutely. So that was an extreme. This was an extreme. So I was, and, but, it was going on, and an opportunity came up where one of my colleagues who was who was in the UB group, he connected with me and said, there's a opening in this company which is about international marketing, and would you be interested? I said, okay, what is the name of the company? He said, the name of the company you may not have heard much, but it's a company which is all one of the top brands in Africa. I said, okay. Then he said, okay. I said, great. You are not doing, but there you are not doing sales or marketing, you're doing product management or category management. I said, yeah, which involves product development and creating a strategy for each product, the entire A to Z of the product category. I said, sounds good. And I said, okay. Things took shape, and uh, I moved in. And that is the role that brought me to Chennai, where I joined the Vatanmal group and I came to Chennai. And now there's something very interesting that happened. In fact, this is a story that I actually tell students once in a while, with the importance of active listening. When I was having one of the conversations, my colleague told me that, uh, you know, dude, get your passport ready and all that. So you're gonna have an international travel right after you join. I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And that was my first international travel at that time. So I said, yeah, get your passport ready and everything and updated. And as soon as you join, maybe another week or something, you'll be traveling to Bern. So I said, wow, Germany, Berlin, amazing. I was like, and immediately I was like, wow, cool. Now, how many people, at that point of time, at that stage of the career, immediately right after joining, you're traveling to Europe? I was like, wow, cool. I called and told my mom that, I'm traveling to Europe. I said, wow, really? And I told all the people around me that I'm traveling to Berlin. And, and then a couple of weeks later, I got a call from Chennai and said, where they said that, you go and take yellow fever injection. Now, I was like, excuse me, okay. And now I didn't know much about yellow fever injection at that point of time. So I I just asked a couple of people on the yellow fever injection kyun chahiye? Because they said that it's needed in for your passport and you'll need that. Then I immediately Googled and said, yellow fever injection is needed for Africa. I said, but he said Berlin. Then I called him up and said, you said Berlin, right? Why do I need a yellow fever injection to go to Berlin? So who's going to Berlin? I said, you're going to Benin. Benin. That's a West African country. Pin drops. Pin drop silence. Okay. I said, hmm. And I said, you got to practice active listening, my friend.
So it's just a couple of letters, but a couple of worlds apart as well.
Absolutely. A couple of letters.
But what is your first experience of Benin after this?
Oh, it was, I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, right from the moment you touched down there, and for somebody who knew absolutely nothing about the continent, about the market, about the people, absolutely nothing. When I landed there, it was literally, it's like the first steps of knowing a place starts from the moment you get off the airport, get off the plane onto the tarmac and you go to the airport. Everything is, it took me some time to, wrap my head around the way the people are, to understand them, to the way they talk, the what is important there for them. It took me some time, but it was an experience. Now with Vatanmal, I was handling the dairy products category. So from alcohol, finally, like, okay, okay, to milk.
So you're progressing from adult to child. Okay. Right. So that's a. But this is actual milk, or was it milk powder? Or?
It was milk powder. It was evaporated milk. It was condensed milk. It was different forms of milk that we were marketing in West Africa. So to understand the milk market there, to understand how the dairy market functioned, and to meet customers there, we had a lot of new dairy products launch. I mean, being prepped for launch there. So to do the market study for that, and that was an absolutely amazing experience. Amazing experience. I had a great bunch of people around me. Was working with great team, lovely atmosphere, and we were having a lot of fun. And uh, now, yeah, in West Africa, there are two kinds of countries: the Anglophone countries, where English is a primary spoken language, and the Francophone countries, where French is a primary spoken language. So, I mean, most of my time was spent in markets where the dairy category was prominent and where we were planning to launch the different milk products there. So that's how the journey in the milk industry started, and that was an exciting. We launched a lot of new products, and I traveled close to, I think, about 14 countries where during the time that I was there, right? African countries as well as South America, Europe, and Southeast Asia, where we collaborated with factories to produce our brands. So we followed a contract packing business where we marketed those brands in Africa. So traveled a lot, had a great experience of different cultures, different people. Amazing experience.
Yeah, but I think there's also this whole, when you're traveling to this level, that is the amount of travel goes up exponentially. The first time to a place, your mind records everything. You're like, your senses are on high alert, and every single smell, every single sound, every single, aspect of the culture hits you. But it's amazing how just in a couple of trips or two or three trips, it's like, oh, okay, you make your way to what you've done earlier. Okay, I got down here, I did this, I did that. I think at some point we're creatures of habit, because no matter how much of new stuff happens, we revert to the familiar pretty easily.
Yes.
So when you get down to something, okay, it becomes fairly difficult to try and do something different each time. And ultimately, but that's the more difficult part. How do you find newness in whatever you do? Because let's say you know a category.
Hmm.
Did you also find that there was anything you learned about selling alcohol that was useful in selling milk?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. Def- what was very very useful for me was that time, number one. Now even in alcohol, there was, when you go to the market to study the vodka market, or to study the consumption of a particular brand of alcohol which moves in institutions. When I say institutions, I mean, bars and restaurants and clubs and nightclubs and pubs. Now you go there, there is a very different consumption pattern. There is a very different buyer preference. There is a very different impact of brand, and it's an entirely different game altogether. When you go and talk about honeybee brandy, which is sells by bottles right from the retail, which has a huge offtake from the retail. So inside the same category, you have multiple different buyer patterns and everything. Similarly, when it comes to milk, when we're talking about dairy products, now evaporated milk is a very different product as compared to a sweetened condensed milk. The usage is different. Evaporated milk is diluted, and it is diluted and given to children as their daily milk intake, while sweetened condensed milk is used as a creamer in teas and coffees, and even as a breakfast product. And similarly, milk powder, and similarly, you have UHT milk, which is a Tetra Pak milk, which is available only in supermarkets and cold storage outlets, and only affluent people who have access to those retail points will buy them. The reasons are different. The taste pat, even whether your milk product has got animal fat or vegetable fat, that makes a big difference. The consumption is different. So I went with the mindset that even if the two different dairy products or two different milk powders are right here, their buying and the consumer behavior and everything would be completely different. So I went with literally a clean slate when I went there, just to absorb. the sponge mindset, that just to absorb as much as you get in that, as much everywhere. I spoke to as many people as I could. I went to the market, spoke to customers, spoke to retailers, spoke to the sales team that was working there. It was absolutely, the first few months were chaotic, but it from there on it became better. Yeah, you start learning that, right?
So then during this time, public speaking had receded. It was not something that you were,
It was not there at all.
it was not there at all.
So the only the only form of public speaking at that time was that when you have to present your quarterly marketing budgets in front of the management, the top management, that you get a half an hour slot to do that. And then, all the guns are trained at you. So that's the only form of public speaking that you got to do in any way there.
And you can't be very creative out there. You have to be factual. You have to get all your thing right. And
You have to be boringly factual.
yeah. Okay. So from Vatanmal, from, your first selling alcohol to selling milk, and then traveling across so many countries and absorbing cultures which are different. Where did things begin to change, or when?
So a very simple incident actually opened the doors for entrepreneurship into the public speaking space. It was 2012, and sitting with in Kerala, in my hometown in Thrissur, there were a bunch of students who were college students who were going to appear for their placement interviews. And since I was there at that point of time, along with a couple of my friends, I started talking to the students about that, and a casual chat over a cup of Sulaimani actually, extended into a 3-hour conversation on what exactly to say during an interview, how to face that, how to answer different questions. And after the 3-hour conversation, it was over. I got back to my work. I got back to Chennai. Work continued. And after a few days, I got a call. I got to know that the students would come there. They got their jobs. And they said that their interviews went, more than getting the job, they said the interviews went really well. Apparently the interviews were very happy with their prep levels and their confidence level they were answering, and they were very grateful, they were very happy. And that set us thinking that, okay, maybe, why not try it out in a couple of colleges, maybe go to a school, do that, teach. At that point of time, it was between public speaking and communication, so let's teach students how to express themselves better. That was the basic. There was no clear. I am call myself an accidental entrepreneur because it was not planned. I did not have nurture any entrepreneurial dreams either in my B school or when I was working. Absolutely, I was very very happy in my corporate role. I did not have any such issues or any such problems. But this just happened accidentally. This
It's far better than being. It's far better than being an Excel sheet entrepreneur, Vinay, because that is the other thing where, everyone says we build castles, but I think we build figures in Excel, which is, it's very easy to show 10% or 20% year on year growth on a spreadsheet. It's quite another thing to actually do that on the ground and to actually help people. Okay, sorry, I interrupted your reverie. You were talking of how.
No, that is when we started doing very small event called a debate club in one of the schools in Chennai. And the year after that, the students of the debate club, they won the regional debate, the state regional debate contest. And then there was no looking back. Then
So what did you do in the club? What did you do in the debate club? You'd give them a topic and they had to prepare?
No, that was, yeah, but give more than that, give them a framework to prepare, give them a framework to put their thoughts into. And there are a lot of misconceptions around debating, because a lot of people think debating is all about hurling insults on at each other and shouting at each other, and the person with the loudest voice is often the winner. and so on and so forth. A lot of people don't, a lot of students especially don't understand that debating is about critical thinking, is about rationale and logic, and about about the way you can structure your arguments in favor of a topic. You are not debating against a person, you're debating against the motion. So the primary focus of my debate coaching, my debate program at that point of time was that change this perspective, because these are smart kids. I don't have to tell them how to prepare for a topic. These are smart kids. They will, but we'll show them the direction and give them a structure, a framework to think, that this is how you think when you come to this is how you punch holes in the opposition's arguments, opposition strategy. This is how you do smart rebuttals. This is how you use the rebuttal to get your point across to the audience. Please remember, rebuttal is not for the other team. Rebuttal is to show the audience how strong you are on your stand. So these are small mindset shifts that you bring about in the children, and then you see the magic happen.
Great. So we'll go into this, but I think there's one thing that Deepa wants to pull you back to, which is, do customers pay attention to product labels to make their decisions? Or do they go by word of mouth or peer preferences?
I am a huge believer in the power of social proof. I mean, if I have to buy a maybe a travel bag, and we are having this conversation, and I say, Venu, the other day you were traveling, you were carrying a bag. What was that? Look nice. Is that good? And you tell me that, oh, it's amazing. It's so comfortable. And, you tell me a couple of more lines from it. I go to the outlet. I may check out other brands, but 70% of my mind is already made that, yeah, it's already made up that I am going to go for this particular brand, because you have used it and I know you, and you have told me that it's something that you have rubbed off your trust factor onto that brand. So word of mouth and peer influence is the most powerful, because it attaches trust to brands. It attaches trust to brands, and that leads them. Now, of course, labels make a difference when I'm a big believer that, if you are good, you should also look good on the shelf. It's as simple as that. Labels are important, appearances are important of the brand, the entire thing. But here we are comparing two different, like, if you tell me that this particular brand of bag is good, and I go to the outlet and I find a brand which looks better, much higher chances are that I will buy the brand that you recommended. Okay. So I'm not saying that, but if there is no social proof and I'm going there, I will definitely look at the bag that looks the sturdiest and looks the most attractive and has the features that I need, comes in my budget, if given all other factors. But if your word has come on it,
right, it makes it that much easier to make that difference. Yeah. Okay. So we took that diversion into marketing, and we're back to the journey which you're undertaking. Now, did you ever think that when you were getting into teaching students public speaking, would it be remunerative? Is it worth spending that money? Because schools don't spend too much money. So what are the things that went through your mind before you decided that this is something that you want to explore?
Frankly speaking, that's exactly how when I studied the market and I got a hang of the market, that's something which I understood, that yes, this is not a very profit driven industry, but how do you actually create a profitable business around it? So that's the challenge on that. It has to be a balance of the value you create, and the value has to be so differentiated that literally every child or every parent who's experienced your brand should tell that, I want to learn from public speaking from these guys. That is one part of it. And the second part of it is to structure your business around, certain parameters which ensure that, yes, you need to have a team, you need to have volumes. So structure your team with us in such a way that you are able to handle volumes. You have this ability to use scale to your advantage.
Okay.
Now, say for example, if I'm a freelance public speaking trainer, and I'm working with at the most maybe I can do say 5 sessions, 6 sessions, 7 sessions in a week, which is regular sessions. Now there is no way I can scale up. Even if even if I am the most amazing guy, I cannot scale up because I can't handle more. So need to build a team, need to create value, and that to a very very differentiated value. So that was the approach that we followed, and we made lots and lots of mistakes and learned from them. Of course, marketing is important, creating a community is important. So we are still work in progress. We're nowhere close to saying that we are the done deal, and we are out there. No, we are still taking steps towards growth. We are still learning every single day.
And I think the other part is you're aiming at a market which is already right now edtech, and the demands on students has just increased literally by the year. What is it that they're doing, and what is the edge that they have? And that is the sad part. Like you said, you were able in 3 hours to help kids over one session, as opposed to everything. Because when they are in school, they have a lot of subject knowledge which is only for marks, whereas marks are not really going to make any difference. Nobody asks where you studied beyond your first job. Maybe the first job, it makes a difference as to getting in. After that, no one's asking where did you graduate from, what are the things that you did. And the unfortunate part is that seems to be the fixation of a lot of young people, saying that they think that it's the end of the world if their marks are bad.
Yes.
It's crazy that it's not, and because it's not true. And I've seen a lot more street smart people get away with all kinds of things because, as far as they're concerned, they've learned the ways of the world, or they've learned how to get ahead by observing human nature and by understanding how to solve a problem. But when you said you'll scale, did you see that there was enough volume available within the city itself to be able to do it?
Oh yes, of course there is because there is a growing demand, there's a growing need in the market for quality public speaking programs, called public speaking workshops, and there are lots and lots of enthusiastic students who want to learn. Today morning, I was invited to judge public speaking contest. Now, after the event, I had 4 to 5 students from them come and ask that how do we get better? Absolutely purely on their own accord. They took the initiative. They came, asked me that, how do we get better? What can we do better? Where did we go wrong? What could have been better? Now that's a very constructive way of thinking.
Right.
And today I'm seeing that in so many students, which is why there are so many students who are taking the initiative to learn that. And I strongly believe that if all the life skills you put them on a chessboard, public speaking is the queen.
Yeah. Yeah. It- it's it's quite strange that even after getting out of school and college, these three, reading, writing, and speaking, are your core skills. And if you manage to excel at all of them, you will get by. You will not just get by, you will figure out ways in which you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing about public speaking is that when you acquire that skill, the confidence that you gain out of that spills over into the other aspects of your life. I've seen that so many times over thousands of children, thousands of adults over the last 11 plus years, 12 years. So that is a very infectious kind of confidence that you get. That yes, if I can do this, what is this then? I can definitely do this. I can give it a shot.
So, from teaching children public speaking, how did your journey as a public speaker yourself, or the head of, as to the president of PSA, evolve? How did that come about?
That happened in 2019 when just out of the blue, I got an opportunity to attend the first professional speakers summit that happened in Chennai. That was the time when the PSAI was formed. Right around that time, that was the first time the summit was happening in India. That was the first time an association, a body for professional speakers was being created in India. And after I attended that summit, it was an absolute eye-opening experience. eye-opening experience. We had professional speakers from across the world coming into Chennai, even Indian speakers from different parts of the country coming into Chennai and talking about how do you monetize speaking? How do you make a business out of speaking? What are the skill sets? What are the tools? What are the strategies? What are all the the ammunition that professional speaker needs to build a flourishing business? Now, this till that time or till that summit that happened in the month of Jan 2019, I didn't even know that speakers got paid like that. I did not know that it was such $1 million industry the way it was. I didn't know anything about professional speaking until the professional speaker summit happened, and then after the summit, joining the organization was a no brainer. It was like it happened right there on the second day of the summit. I signed up for the association. There was not even a iota of doubt in my mind. So I was one of the earlier people to join the association, and it's been now 4 years now. This is my fourth year since.
Fourth year.
Yeah, fourth year.
So good. Within 4 years, you become the president. So give me one of the light bulb moments from one of the speakers who came in. Let's say you listened to them and then you said, hey, this guy is making a lot of sense. Were they focused on one particular topic? Were they experts in one particular thing? Or what is it that got you so glued to public speaking?
I can't put my finger on one single thing because there were so many. I can, name a couple maybe. That one, when I heard Frederick Harron speak, and he spoke about the impact that a professional speaker makes when they go to different countries and speaks on a particular topic and takes the message to thousands of people. And it's an experience that cannot be replicated anywhere. And it can be made into a full-time profession. It can be made into a career, and the kind of passion and drive that's needed to create a professional speaking business, a professional speaking career, that really impacted me. Then when I heard Prakash Iyer uh, do a live demo of how to use a story to intrigue and captivate the audience minds, leave us literally, mind blown that this is how you use story to literally have your audience, glued to the next word that you're speaking, that you're saying. That was another, aha moment that we say. That was another wow, out of the world moment. Then when we had inside the event itself, we had a small workshop, a small session masterclass by TM Karthik, where he spoke about improv for professional speakers. That was another eye-opening moment. And then my good friend, the late Chandil Kumar CK, he spoke about using humor, how, when you get your audience to smile, they're already fallen in love with you. And why that's important for professional speakers to use that. And the way he connected, I was like, my God, this is an entire, this is a galaxy of people who are making so much impact. I was sold.
And it's amazing how the overlap that happens. Let's say if you're talking of improv. Improv is literally you have to improvise on the spur of the moment and come up with stuff so you're literally creating the script, you're given a situation and then you work it. Same thing when you do it or take one particular story, what are the highlights, what are the points? And each of this is telling a story. That's what we do with film. That's what we do with writing. That's what we do with speaking. And the important part is to figure out what works for you.
Absolutely.
I think to know who you are as a speaker. So if humor is not your strongest point, then I think people who look at it and then say, oh, no, but I must crack jokes and then do it. Don't go for it.
No, never. You should do what works. You should do you. You should do
exactly.
Always.
Yeah. And you at times is hard until someone comes and tells you at the end of a speech, wow, you really made an impact. Yes. And then you sort of sit back and then say, okay, this is what is it. One of the things that Narayan Kumar would come on this creative, he had told me that as a creative person, he had said this in a group. He said, as a creative person, one of the things you can't do is to simply watch an ad, like it, and then forget about it. He says you have to go back to the brief and break it down. Go back to the point at which it was created, think it through, even if you don't have the knowledge available to you. And I think that's a great way of see, now you picked out three of the points that really parts that, and given the background that you had and where you came from, it's obvious that it reached this thing where in 2019 you came out of the conference and then said, okay, this is what I'm doing. And here you are 4 years later as the president.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing journey. And but again, the first year to 2 years I struggled because I didn't know my niche. Because I thought, okay, since I'm running a public speaking academy, so I should public speaking should be my niche. Okay, then I realized that no, but along with that, I am also running a parallel marketing consulting business where I consult in marketing and brand strategy. So then, which means my niche should be that. So, and then I flitted around. Then no, I thought, no, I also teaching people how to sell. So, which means I'm a sales expert. Like that, I hopped on and off on multiple things until I finally, it took me close to 2 years to identify the niche that I really identified, that I really resonated with. That, yes. And that is customer centricity. And that's, yes. And now for the last year and a half to 2 years, I've been focusing completely on that. And I realized that when I look back at my career, right from the first job till now, I've always been the guy who spoke the customer language. For me, anything that we do as a brand or a business makes sense only if it adds value to the customer. So that's a mindset that's always been with me. And it, when you arrive at the right niche, there is that thing that when in movies they show, right, at a very important point in the movie, all the bells start ringing and all the background music plays. So for me, it was for me that I could suddenly see all the dots connecting in my head. I couldn't do that when I was talking about public speaking, and there were some which I identified with strongly with, but they don't have a market as a speaker. So similarly, but when I looked at customer centricity, I realized this is where I.
Okay. So now, just a slight deviation from here, customer centricity is fine. But when you're doing public speaking classes, you have to go through the authorities in schools, the principal or whoever it is. So then, how would you get through them to your actual customers who are the students who would come the moment a college or school said, yes, please come?
Customer centricity, Venu, customer centricity, simple as that. Plain and simple. In B2B, when you go to a school, you don't talk about what your sessions will feel like. No, that's not relevant for them. You tell them about what the session will do for their students. That's their outcome. But when they ask you to go to a class and talk, you talk to the students about what the session feels like. Customer centricity, my friend.
I knew you would say this, and I just wanted to be clear that people understood this, because there's a lot of confusion about who's the customer and how. And like you said, you have to change. It can't be the same, pitch to.
I've made those mistakes. Because I have gone for meetings and I've told about different elements of my session which are not relevant to the stakeholders, to the dean of a college. He doesn't connect to that. Why would he want to connect to that? He will connect to what means something to him. That your students, when they go out there and present themselves, it's your institution that that they're representing your institution. When they go out there, secure jobs, they go out there, start off their own ventures and so on and so forth. When they go out there and talk, that you are raising a generation of smart, confident presenters and speakers. That's the outcome for them. But when you go to the children, we always tell them that what we are. And now I have a team that does the training and handle that. I pitch in whenever I can. But now we have an entire structure. We have a curriculum on public speaking which runs through the year, and we've got all those systems in place. But if you ask me in one line, what is the value that we add? It is that we create a safe, inclusive space for children.
Right.
That's because the content, you type public speaking plus material on Google, you will find first 20 pages, you will find everything that needs to be said about public speaking. There is nothing which is rocket science there. It's a very simple thing. But the most important thing is, are you making the child who's, maybe who's in the shell, who's not feeling confident, who's feeling that, maybe who's had a bad experience with speaking earlier, are you making the child feel secure, safe, not judged at all, and say that, come, make a mistake and let's celebrate the mistake that you make? You give that feeling to the child. And
Yeah, that's such a wonderful phrase. Celebrate a mistake, because I think we're doing too little of it these days. Because it's almost as if you want to only celebrate successes and not the mistakes and not the things that help you understand this whole bit a lot better. Wonderful. We've almost an hour. I don't know if we covered everything that we hoped to cover, but I think the interesting part really has been about, you know, understanding who you are, understanding what drives you, understanding what keeps you motivated, which, like you said, it keeps changing from time to time, or while the core may not change, there are things, your activities and what you actually want to do will change over time.
oh, you have to, evolve, and like each time you go to the next step, you evolve and create something. You have to remain fresh and relevant any point of time. Today, next week, next month, next year, you have to be remain fresh and relevant in the market.
And exactly as you said, in all those first 20 pages of Google, being whether it's public speaking or cooking or cycling, you can't learn anything from books and search engines unless you actually get down to doing it. And that, I think, is one of the sad parts, that do stuff. Don't spend so much of time trying to understand things by reading about it or theorizing about it and stuff like that. So, any closing remarks, Vinay? What would you like to tell the students who've enrolled with you, and the ones whom you've helped, and the ones who are looking for a job, let's say, in a couple of years' time? What is it that you would want to tell them?
When I was standing outside the interview room for my first job interview in my B school, and I was very nervous, very, very nervous. I was literally, sweating pots. So that's how I was. And one professor just walked by and he asked me what's happening here. So I said, there is an interview happening. He said, oh, there's an interview happening? My cabin is right next to this one, and I'm not even hearing. I'm only hearing people talking. I'm not hearing any student's voice. I didn't know what was happening. I said, sir, there's an interview happening. I can't hear any student there. He said, you are attending an interview. You should bring your entire soul, talk. And then he said, and then he pointed a finger at me and said, when it's your turn, remember that I'm sitting in the next cabin. I want to hear what you're saying. Okay.
Wonderful advice.
Just reframed the context. I was thinking, okay, what all on marketing have I, like, okay, what are the questions that are going to come on marketing, on this, that? I just thought that, okay, fine. I need to be loud. I need to get the voice out. I need to make sure that I'm expressing myself in as much clarity as possible. And then immediately my call came and I went inside. And later when I met the professor, he said, I heard you. That's all he said. And he walked away.
Great. So, on that note,
Speak out, let your voice out. And the only way you get better at speaking is by speaking. Make mistakes. Make lots of mistakes. Don't make the same mistake again. Make newer mistakes. Find newer mistakes to make. But keep doing it. That's the only way to really master either public speaking or basically any skill, just by rolling up your sleeves and doing it.
wonderful. So, Vinay, all the best for your company, for the work you do, for the thousands of lives that you're impacting. And here's to many more successes, both in teaching children public speaking, as well as a career as a public speaker. Thank you for joining us on the show. And it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much, Venu. Thank you for having me here. It was an absolute joy having this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Vinay Pushpakaran and his journey like all the other journeys that we've had before, involved heartbreak as well as success and learning. And it's wonderful how he did this stage by stage and got to where he is today. Next week, another speaker, another career journey, and one more session of learning. Thank you for joining us.